All right, welcome back. Up to this point, we've learned about pulse, divided beat, how to notate certain notes, meter, a lot. All right, so everything up to this point has been kind of foundational and it's kind of nuts and bolts-y stuff. We looked at some terms. I think you guys have enough, of that stuff, theory. And hopefully you've gone out and you've looked at some notation. You have a basic understanding of how that works. But now we want to get into more musical things and music making and things that we can do and not have to think about so much. But I still want to give you some vocabulary. So we're talking about syncopation, dynamics, accents, phrasing, and something we call fortitude and orientation. Relates to how well we can create and maintain a rhythm pattern and stay oriented in the music and, and hold down the time, right? Hold the beat together. Okay, so what I was just playing was an example of a syncopated beat or rhythms. And what does that mean? Syncopation is referring to any kind of musical expression that is off the main beats. It's not on the main beats, all right? So what is on the main beats could sound like, 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, let's put a metronome on. All right, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Right, this is not syncopated because it's matching the pulse, it's matching the metronome. But if I played, all right, now I'm playing in the holes, in the E's and the U's. Remember 1 E and a? 1 E and a, 2 E and a. So here's an example. 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a, right? Now we could use a vocable, like people like to use takadimi, 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 or I like to use like takadege, 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 takadege. But you could start to play in those, like the E's and the U's, like 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 1 E, 1 E, 2 E, dati, 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 dot, 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 ba 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 ba. All right. So when we do that, that's what we're doing. We're playing in a syncopated style, or we're playing syncopated notes. And that, you guys, is where music gets fun and interesting. It's kind of it's what makes funk interesting, I think, like playing in all those little pockets, those little spaces between the notes. It's what gives us most of the music of the Caribbean, African diaspora, West African music. It's what gives us that little funky thing in the clave rhythm, right? The beat that a lot of people have trouble with, which is the bat 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 got dot dot. Actually, 2 notes in the clave, right? Dot got dot 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 got dot dot. So here are the non-syncopated notes in clave. And 4 bum 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 bum, right? Not syncopated, but the other notes. Dot, 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 got, dot, got, 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 dot, got, got, dot, dot, got, 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 bean, 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 bean. All right? And so it's the combination of, downbeats, upbeats, and those real syncopated notes, the E's and the U's, and the triplets and all that. That's what makes things interesting. So for example, also we had 6/8, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But where do we get like an interesting bell pattern? Like the what we call the 6/8 bell pattern. Boom, beep, 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 boom, geek, 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 boom, geek, 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 boom, geek, 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 beep, 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 beep. All right, way more fun than just going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1. You know, nothing wrong with that, but you get the idea, all right? So when we have rhythms like partido alto, ba 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 get 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 gung 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 gung, or what we call the Brazilian clave. Det get det 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 that. All right, that's what we're doing. We're syncopating beats. Now, one of the ways we can get to some interesting syncopated patterns is by using accents and hand over hand or alternating hand patterns, which I have taught a lot. I really like the alternating hand pattern idea. So I know you can't see my hands right now, but I'm just doing alternating, right? Back and forth, back and forth. Right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, da-dee, 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 da. And if you start here, and you just keep it going, I think it's a good way to practice syncopation. Right, left, right, right, left, right, right, left, left, right, left, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. Right? You can start to practice syncopation without having to just grab that note out of nowhere, like it's floating in space. Right? You've got something, you got a little motor going, and it's anchoring you. And you're just accenting, right? Accenting different notes that could be very syncopated, but you're still grounded, right? Does that make sense? All right. So that relates to something called phrasing now. We're going to talk about representing the beat and the rhythm and the meter, all right? So this is important, you guys, because when you want to play or create rhythms or practice or accompany somebody or back someone up, it's super important that we stay oriented within the meter, obviously, because when we're playing with other people, or even when we're representing a rhythm on our own, there's an agreement there that we're functioning within a cycle, right? So it can change, but I'm saying if we're going to play in 4/4, then let's play in 4/4. Let's not pop out of it and pop back and everything, because it gets a little confusing for listeners, and it's very confusing, and it can have dramatically bad impacts on your other ensemble members. If you're trying to play in a band or something, or even just jamming, it can cause a lot of confusion, because when we engage in metric music making, you know, rhythmic music making with a meter and a time signature and a phrase and a cycle, we really all need to show up within that. You know, it's like being in the same room. You can't, if you leave, we don't know where you are. You're not there anymore. So it's a matter of connection, support, consistency, reliability, you know, relationship building, and you don't want to abandon your friends, right, in the music. You want to stay with them. Doesn't mean we can't do things that are fun and exciting to do and challenging. We can do all that. We just want to stay in the music. So how do we do that? One of the things I always recommend when you're learning and you want to play something is always like land on the one, right? So I'm not gonna play with the metronome right now, but I want to give you an example of just representing a beat, okay? And I'm just gonna play a bass tone, kind of an accent on the one, all right? Now, it doesn't matter what else I do. I'm just marking that. And I could take a break for one measure, but then I want to come back. All right, if that makes sense. So what I'm doing there is I can do anything I want in the rest of the meter, rest of the bar, but I'm just going to come back to that one. And that's an example of staying oriented to the meter and the cycle. And so I want you guys to practice that. You can do it to a beat or a metronome and just see if you can keep coming back and landing on that downbeat, right? The one. Because if you can do that, it just reinforces the idea that you can maintain your orientation. You're not losing your place. And it also demonstrates to other people that you're doing that. And so they can rely on you. If you're good at that, they can rely on you. And in music making, we often have to take turns kind of leaning on each other because maybe we're doing something a little experimental and risky and challenging for our skill level. And we might need to come back, like if we get off or we're a little bit lost or disoriented, we can listen to our partners and we trust them that they're, on the cycle, on the beat, all right? So that's a dynamic that happens a lot in group music making. So you want to be able to be the person that other people can rely on, right? And you want to be able to rely on yourself too, like your own inner clock and your inner compass. So that's what I'm talking about. Now, with regard, that's kind of like phrasing, right? And we're feeling like a set of beats. So phrasing is, can I kind of feel, more than just one beat at a time? Can I feel like a 4 or an 8, right? A 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1. All right, practice that, practice longer phrases, 16 beats maybe, but at least 4s and 8s. It's a great exercise to keep, again, to come back and make sure you feel that cycle and you're coming back and you're not lengthening it or shortening it. Fortitude, you guys, is the ability to, you think about what is a fort? A fort is a building that is there to withstand attack, right? To withstand pressure. Fortitude is our ability to maintain our position, to maintain our direction, to maintain our current path or trajectory without being disturbed, all right? In music, that means I can play a beat, and I can test my fortitude in what I'm doing right now for you guys, which is talking, not having a conversation, but giving a lecture and talking over the rhythm, and the rhythm stays steady, right? And the talking has nothing to do with the rhythm, actually. You might try this and talk in rhythm, but that's actually, that's maybe easier. I don't know, it might be, it might not be. But it is a little challenging to just talk to someone. And this is something I make my participants do when I'm doing a workshop as a way to just, for them, again, you guys, it's not about like testing you or trying to make you do something so you can feel good or bad about yourself. It's not that. It's so that you can discover what you need, where your weak spots are, where your growth areas are, all right? It's just to get information. So I recommend that you try to play a beat, anything you want, and then try to talk to somebody and see if you can maintain the rhythm. And why do that? I'll tell you why. It becomes so important when you're playing with other people or you're playing for other people, so that you can hold down the fort, keep the time, maintain the rhythm. That's part of your role as a drummer and a percussionist, all right? It's not only your responsibility, it's everybody's responsibility to keep the time, but it is kind of, since we are the ones that are in charge of those, percussive sounds, other people have other things they're focusing on, like harmony and melody. But since our domain is rhythm instruments mainly, not exclusively, of course, but mainly, we want to make sure that's solid. So this is about going back to the very beginning. Remember lesson 1? And the metronome and the pulse and keeping time and just staying oriented to the beat. It's that plus, can I stay oriented to the meter And can I play syncopated rhythms or rhythms with a certain feel and maintain all of that at the same time? And in the next lesson, we're going to be looking at what I call micro timing, which is even more about the feel or the phrasing or like the specific genre of music or style of music that we might play. But we'll get to that a little bit later. For now, I do want to touch on one other thing, which is kind of a general style change, because you'll see this out there, right? So this relates a little bit to notation and a little bit to just some of the things that you'll see or hear as you play with people. And that relates to something we call swing or shuffle feel. All right, because sometimes you'll have notation that looks like it's in 4/4. And where is an example? Like one of these things that I had from before. So let's look at this. Remember this one? So you don't have to look over here on this part, but it's just 4/4. So like 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3, 4. We had a simple 4/4 beat. Let me go with this one actually. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, right? Now we can play that straight, what we call straight feel, which would be like the 4/4 feel, right? The regular. If you just see this written, or somebody says, "Oh, let's play a 4/4 rhythm," you would assume that they just want 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and. All right, straight. But we also have the same notation, and if somebody does this and they write swing, swing, or shuffle, and you see swing, the notation is not going to change, but the feel changes. So then you treat it more like the triplet one, which is somewhere, I don't know. So you're just going to play it with a swing feel, even though it could be notated that it looks like straight, but when somebody says swing, you're going to, which technically is more like 12/8, right? But we don't need to write out, we know what it means, right? So swing feel and straight feel. Our pulse stays the same, right? Our pulse is the same. It's not changing tempo, right? It's not speeding up or slowing down. It's the same. Just the feel. All right? I know a lot of you know that. It's, this is not meant to be, a big revelation. But I want to mention that because you might hear somebody say, "Oh, let's do this in a swing feel," or "Let's play this music." You see some music and you can play it in a swing feel if you want, or not. So that's a thing that's out there. All right. Now, in the next lesson, we're going to be looking at polyrhythms, and we're going to look at what it means to engage in what I call micro timing, and I'm going to give you some examples of how musicians mostly from the African diaspora, in my experience, play eighth notes, and they are not even, all right? And it's a stylistic thing, and I'll give you a way I'll not only give you a way to hear that, but also maybe a way to think about it and to practice it and to tune into it so that when you are listening to music, you can hear with a little more depth and maybe extract a little more out of it and get some more ideas about how you can connect with the music more and then represent it if you're going to go play that music. And we're going to look at some things we're going to call polyrhythms, and that's exciting, all right? So in the meantime, you guys, practice syncopation, dynamics, phrasing, practice your fortitude in the way that I mentioned, and if you want some more exercises and tips and links to things, look at the Patreon version of this lesson. The link will be below this. So if you're on YouTube for free and you want to connect with me more and get more info, you can join us as a patron at patreon.com/Kalani and do that. All right? Thanks for watching, you guys. Like if you like it. Always make sure you like the videos, hit the bell, subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you in the next lesson.